Yellow crime tape surrounds an area off Highway 401 near the Pickering border. A homicide investigation is now underway. Good afternoon. A Toronto police scene has been set up near Highway 401 and Whites Road after a body was discovered in the area.
Police say the call came in around midnight. CTV's John Musselman is live at the scene with more on what we know so far. John.
Hi, Nathan. We're on the south side of the 401, just west of Whites Road, in behind some industrial buildings here. The scene was right behind me. We'll show you some video taken from the CTV helicopter. Police were called to the scene just after midnight. Reports were that a body was discovered, discarded either on the side of the highway or behind one of these buildings here. We have very limited information from police whether this was a man or a woman. But we do know that police were down in the area here. The Marine unit was also here walking through the culvert, which was filled with water, also gathering some evidence in connection with this case. Now, at this point, police aren't making any links to anything at this point. We're just waiting for an update from Toronto Police. Meanwhile, the people who work in this area, when they saw the police here this morning, they were wondering what was going on. Here's what they had to tell us. Again, we're just waiting for an update from Toronto Police. They've just cleared the scene here at the highway. We'll have to wait for identification and confirmation of who this victim is. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. There is an ongoing police presence in a Scarborough community today after a 70-year-old woman went missing Saturday.
Somebody's missing and we don't know exactly. That's because we were wondering, like, what happened to that and why the police is around for 2 days.
It's shocking, yeah, it's shock. I mean, she is nice, yeah.
Friends and family tell CTV News Toronto the woman's daughter has flown in from Japan as her mother's disappearance stretches into its 6th day. The doors to her Scarborough townhouse are sealed by police. Police say the missing woman is Yuk, a 70-year-old who police say was last seen near Brimley and Ellesmere Roads on July 5th. Police have not released many details about their search, but say they are concerned for her safety.
Police have released images of 2 men wanted in a Scarborough home invasion. They're both described as between 20 and 30 years old. One has a tattoo on the inside lower part of his right bicep and a tattoo on the inside of his left forearm. Police say on July 2nd, around 11 p.m., the suspects forced their way into a home near Kennedy and Shepherd. One pulled a knife and assaulted 2 victims while making demands for cash. The suspects are accused of stealing a cell phone before running away. Both victims were treated for non-life-threatening injuries. The suspects should be considered armed and dangerous. If you see them, do not approach. Call 911 immediately.
York Regional Police say they've arrested a motorcyclist after spotting him traveling at extremely high speeds on GTA roads and highways last week.
Based on the driving and how he's passing vehicles, we've got grounds for dangerous, I believe.
This footage is from York Police, their helicopter taken last Friday. They say they clocked the motorcycle going more than 200 kilometers an hour on Highway 404 at Bloomington Road and on Highway 407. Police say the driver eventually left the bike at a business in Mississauga and took a ride-share vehicle to a home in Richmond Hill, where he was arrested. 37-year-old Amir Hassan Montferred is charged with dangerous operation, stunt driving, and driving without insurance. And take a look at this. Emergency crews responded to a vehicle fire on the side of Highway 410 in Mississauga this morning. There were flames and smoke shooting into the air. This happened in the northbound lanes at Courtney Park Drive. 2 lanes were closed. Police say the scene was cleared around 11:20.
Still to come on CTV News, trade talks once again escalating. U.S. President Donald Trump announcing a 35% tariff on goods imported from Canada effective August 1st. We'll have the details a little later in the newscast.
For the second time in 2 months, Manitoba is under a province-wide state of emergency.
Primary reason that we have called this latest state of emergency is because we need access to more facilities to be able to shelter this large number of Manitobans who are being forced to flee their homes due to wildfires.
Wildfires have forced around 12,000 people from their homes and forcing them to shelter at arenas and convention centers. This is the worst wildfire season in Manitoba's history, with more than 1 million hectares of land already burned, 11 times worse than the yearly average. Let's bring in CTV's Scott Hurst, who joins us with more. Scott, in recent weeks, we've talked a lot about these fires. Tell us the latest on what's happening in Manitoba.
Michelle, it is still a very troubling situation in Manitoba. That is why they're declaring excuse me, a second state of emergency in that province. Of course, the threat of the wildfire to homes and communities is the most pressing concern. But of course, as you heard from the Premier right there, the fact that they need more space is really the main reason, the primary reason. They need to open up access to more facilities to help shelter the growing number of evacuees, now topping 12,600, with more than 105 active wildfires right now, with more than 260 in total this year. And the Premier of the province, Wab Kinew, saying he is very aware that hotel space in Winnipeg, at least over the next few days, the weekend, is maxed out, which is why evacuees will be going to arenas and rec centers, and they'll be using that space as much as possible to find a place to stay. And so it is a pressing concern that this is now the second time the province has declared a state of emergency. And as you mentioned, the worst wildfire season in terms of hectares burned in 3 decades, with more than 1 million hectares of land burned so far. And so we are still several months away from the end of wildfire season, so there's still a lot of significant concern ahead, Michelle.
And Scott, the wildfire problem in this country extends beyond the province of Manitoba. Can we talk about Saskatchewan, what's happening there? Saskatchewan
still has its own significant threat from wildfires, with more than 56 current wildfires in that province, with 5 evacuation orders in place. Now, that puts the number of people displaced by fire right now at just shy of 1,000. Of course, that's still a lot of people facing significant upheaval, yet significantly fewer than the 15,000 evacuees in mid-June. One of the main fires of concern, the Muskeg fire, is now roughly 34,000 hectares, and that is affecting the communities of Pachunak and Beauval, about 450 kilometers northwest of Saskatoon. And so it is still a significant concern in that province as well, even though, as we mentioned, the number of evacuees much lower than there were about about 5-6 weeks ago in the middle and early parts of June. So Saskatchewan still dealing with a significant ongoing wildfire threat in Manitoba as well. And as I mentioned, we're not even at the midpoint of July, so there is still lots of time for these hot, dry conditions to continue to spark fires. And that is a significant ongoing concern for first responders, wildfire officials, and of course, politicians in these provinces as well, Michelle.
It certainly is troubling. CTV's Scott Hurst, live for us in the National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
We have more news in a moment, but first, there's a live look at the city this afternoon. A few clouds. It's a hot one on this Friday. Also humid, so bear that in mind if you have any outdoor plans. Take all the necessary precautions. There's also a slight chance of rain. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at how things are right now. Lindsay.
Nathan, we found ourselves in a little bit of a weather pattern here where there's the potential for a shower or even a thunderstorm most days, and that continues to be the case as we head into the weekend. Right now, we've got a mix of sun and cloud. Any fog or haze that was with us earlier today, for the most part, has dissipated. Tracking a few showers heading their way toward extreme southwest Ontario. For us, it would likely be more pop-up in nature through the afternoon. Winds once again coming out of the southeast, and once again, they are light. It's already quite muggy out there. It feels like 35 in Toronto at Pearson Airport. It's 27 degrees, 25 on the Toronto Islands. A little bit of relief can be found for some lakeside communities today, but not all, based on the direction of those winds. 30% chance of showers, forecast high 30 degrees. Will feel like 37 at the height of the day. And yes, this temperature trend is going to continue right through the weekend and into next week. A full look at your forecast is coming up. But for now, Nathan, I'm going to send it back over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. A group of First Nations is expressing frustration after they say an ancient ancestral burial site was desecrated during the construction of a parking lot in Oshawa. The site next to the new Ontario Power Generation headquarters on Colonel Sam Drive is under excavation. A statement from the Alderville First Nation, the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, Hiawatha First Nation, and Curve Lake First Nation says remains were found within large excavated soil piles. They say the site is a well-known culturally significant site called the Scugog Carrying Place. They say it appears excavation went ahead without the usual archaeological assessment required by the Ontario Heritage Act. And a statement from Ontario Power Generation says a bone fragment was found during excavation work July 3rd. It goes on to read, Durham Regional Police Services conducted an initial criminal forensic investigation, and they, along with the coroner, assessed the fragment as ancestral since it had been buried for a prolonged period. OPG recognizes the significance and sensitivity of this finding. We are committed to working closely with the local Indigenous communities and authorities to ensure a thorough and culturally respectful investigation.
Turning to the latest in the trade war with the U.S., President Donald Trump has announced plans to impose 35% tariffs on non-CUSMA goods from this country.
In response, Prime Minister Mark Carney is vowing to defend Canadian economic interests. CTV's Sean Leathong is live with more on the latest, and it seems like the talks have taken another snag.
It certainly has, Nathan, and one part that you guys mentioned that seems to be of importance is the fact that we're learning today that it is non-CUSMA-compliant goods, so that being the trade deal that was reached during the first Trump administration. Still, the idea of 35% tariffs on Canadian goods has set some alarms off.
Any hope that the trading relationship between Canada and the United States is on the path to stability has been dealt a major blow, with U.S. President Donald Trump sending an open letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney that says, starting August 1st, 2025, we will charge Canada a tariff of 35% on Canadian products sent into the United States, separate from any sectoral tariffs. Trump once again citing fentanyl from Canada into the United States as a reason.
And it's just a reminder that there are no rules, there is no reason, there is no rationale for anything that Donald Trump does.
Trump has already hit Canada's steel and aluminum industries along with auto manufacturing, as well as a blanket tariff of 25% on Canadian goods. This as Prime Minister Carney had focused on July 21st as a date to reach a deal with the United States.
My own judgment is that this feels different. And I think the Prime Minister is going to have to show a little spine and push back on Donald Trump, given just how obnoxious and how outrageous this letter is.
In a statement, the Prime Minister said, throughout the current trade negotiations with the United States, the Canadian government has steadfastly defended our workers and businesses. We will continue to do so as we work towards a revised deadline of August 1st.
I think that the Prime Minister is buying time. I think that was a stall, essentially, that statement. I would expect to see something out of the Prime Minister's office today, because I do think this demands a different order of response. And you can see it in the reaction of labor leaders and others. I just don't think that we can take this laying down.
Carleton University professor Ian Lee says he thinks that Trump has a clear agenda, and this threat is part of his method.
I believe it's not going well in the negotiations. And so he is, even though the negotiations between Canada and the U.S. are private, they're behind closed doors, we all know that, he's sort of jumping into the public sphere from time to time because he knows what's going on in the negotiations. He's being briefed every day. And so from time to time, he drops these little bombs on us to, shall we say, motivate the Canadian side.
Lee says that it's perhaps time for the Canadian side to think more practically in negotiating with the United States.
I think he wants our manufacturing sector. I do not believe they need our natural resources because they don't have critical minerals. China has the world by the neck because they have over 90% market share. We have critical minerals, but we haven't developed them. There is the essence of a deal.
Within his letter, Trump also threatened any retaliatory tariffs, saying, if for any reason you decide to raise your tariffs, then whatever the number you choose to raise them by will be added onto the 35% that we charge.
And we found out in just the last few minutes that Premier Doug Ford has asked Prime Minister Mark Carney for an in-person meeting with all First Ministers, and that will take place in Huntsville on July 22nd in response to these proposed 35% tariffs. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Nathan, Michelle, send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. Today, the U.S. President and his Secretary of State commented on Washington's stance as it threatens those additional tariffs.
We've been taken advantage of for many, many years by countries, both friend and foe. And frankly, the friends have been worse than the foes in many cases. So I would say just keep working. It's all going to work out.
At the end of the day, the United States has built these tremendous trade imbalances over the last 30 or 40 years. It's unfair to American and American workers, and American, in addition to threaten our industrial capacity. Trade needed to be revisited. The president campaigned on that, and that's what he's doing, and he's resetting it on a global scale. We're resetting tariff levels with virtually every country in the world.
As talks develop with other countries, they are also facing a current deadline of August 1st to reach a trade deal or be hit with new U.S. tariffs. Meanwhile, a new Nanos poll is shedding light on how Canadians are feeling about trade-related boycotts of U.S. goods and travel. Out of more than 1,000 respondents asked this month, 3 in 4 Canadians say they believe the boycotts will end eventually. At the same time, nearly 50% say it will be after Donald Trump's time as president. 16% think the boycott efforts will be permanent.
Some positive news for the Canadian economy this morning. Canada adding over 83,000 jobs in June, the first increase seen in months. The latest employment data from Stats Canada this morning beating estimates, driven mostly by an increase in part-time work. The 83,000 jobs added marks the first increase since January of this year. The unemployment rate also dipped slightly to 6.9%, ending 3 consecutive months of increases. Meanwhile, the federal government says it's extending some temporary changes it made to employment insurance rules back in the spring. They were put in place by the Liberals in response to the trade war with the U.S. They capped the threshold to qualify for EI and let claimants qualify for 4 more weeks of benefits. The goal was to help hard-hit businesses retain workers by reducing hours and compensating them through employment insurance for lost wages. The changes were set to expire on Saturday. Jobs Minister Patty Hajdu now says the changes will last until at least October 11th.
The Royal Canadian Air Force has a new commander. For the first time in its history, the Air Force has a woman at the helm. Lieutenant General Jamie Spicer-Blanchet took over from Eric Kenney at a ceremony in Ottawa yesterday and is now the 22nd commander of the RCAF. Spicer-Blanchet is from Quebec and has served as a Griffin helicopter pilot and a number of command roles, including deputy commander of the Air Force. She was also deployed to UN and NATO peacekeeping tours in Haiti and Bosnia.
Alberta is moving ahead with new rules that could see certain books removed from the shelves at school libraries. The province says it's specifically targeting sexually explicit material.
This policy gives clear direction for school boards, teachers, and school staff, and provides greater assurances to parents about the kinds of material available to children in school libraries.
Alberta's government says this review came after it was made aware of 4 different coming-of-age graphic novels in school libraries in Edmonton and Calgary. Critics have questioned whether the province is targeting books with queer-related content. The education minister says the effort was never about erasing particular narratives from school libraries.
Many colleges and universities across Canada are in crisis. A steep drop in foreign students means less tuition money. And now Ontario's largest public sector union is warning that could lead to thousands of workers losing their jobs before the start of the school year. CTV's Heather Wright has more.
At some schools, international enrollment is down more than 50%, and the fallout has been widespread, financially and academically, with thousands out of a job.
We're seeing one of the largest mass layoffs in Ontario's history, with at least 10,000 job cuts by the end of this year.
The union that represents about 55,000 college faculty and support staff in Ontario say they are worried not only about their members, but about the future of colleges, especially ones that provide accessible training in the skilled trades. Thousands of programs have been canceled, with students worried their programs will be next.
Working conditions and studying conditions are being affected day in and day out.
The federal government has drastically reduced the number of international visas it approves, a policy put in place to help ease pressure on housing, healthcare, and other services. But the result has been perhaps more dramatic than anticipated, with international applicants down sharply and now well below the cap put in place.
We're just not getting the applicants. They're not interested in coming to Canada because of the barriers that they have been told are in place.
Post-secondary schools are now struggling to make ends meet, with layoffs happening across the country. Schools are urging provinces to step up their funding, while also calling on the federal government to do more to attract international students, especially given policy changes south of the border.
There's also a huge opportunity for us, frankly, to strengthen our industries and become real leaders in research and innovation, not just by attracting researchers from the States, but attracting people from around the world who might otherwise have gone there.
Ontario is holding consultations this summer about post-secondary schools, and among the items up for discussion is a tuition freeze that has been in place since 2018. Colleges and universities are asking for it to be lifted. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
Toronto's 2 Ornge air ambulances are not flying, grounded for several days for needed maintenance.
The critical care service instead says it's activating a contingency plan, adding delays are due in part to U.S. tariffs. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has the details.
They lift off to rescue patients in the most critical of need, Ontario's air ambulance service, Ornge. But right now, the 2 Toronto-based Ornge choppers are grounded, out of the mix for needed maintenance. Ornge expects the primary helicopter serving Toronto will be out of commission for 48 hours until July 12th. The secondary chopper won't be back in the air until July 18th. Aviation expert Phil Dirty explains the work itself is very routine.
It's usually pre-planned for a heavy, what we call a heavy check, which is a big inspection. And what they'll do is they will order in parts beforehand so that everything's ready for that downtime of the aircraft so they can get it fixed.
Getting those parts in time is the hiccup in the process. In a memo to Ornge staff obtained by CTV News, the company's chief aviation officer explains setbacks related to supply issues from our vendors continue to impact our progress. Manufacturers cite ongoing disruptions tied to raw material shortages caused by U.S. tariffs and the war in Ukraine.
Some of these structural components are made in Poland, so they're right in the vicinity of the Ukraine.
Ornge insists it's working to get all its choppers in the air and helping patients as quickly as possible. In the meantime, they're leaning on a contingency plan, dispatching helicopters from other bases, supported by additional Ornge land ambulances. Ornge adds it's in regular contact with the helicopter manufacturer to ensure parts are delivered in as timely a fashion as possible and to mitigate any delays. But dispatching helicopters from further away may only compound problems in the shop with aircraft that needs more TLC.
A helicopter is susceptible to more vibrations than a regular fixed-wing aircraft because of the rotors spinning. So it does cause cracks. Components can fail at an earlier time than on a fixed-wing airplane.
With helicopters based in other Ontario cities helping out, they may rack up more hours faster and need a service date sooner.
CTV's Siobhan Morris reporting. Despite speculation a Gaza ceasefire might materialize this week, no deal has been announced. Before leaving Washington on Thursday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pointed to a demand from Hamas that fighting would not restart if a temporary ceasefire didn't lead to a longer deal.
At the beginning of this ceasefire, we will enter negotiations for a permanent end of the war, meaning a permanent ceasefire. If it can't be achieved in 60 days of talks, we'll achieve it by other means, by using the power of our heroic army.
Palestinian health authorities reported more deaths and injuries overnight blamed on Israeli strikes, placing the death toll to date at 57,000. Israel says it's targeting Hamas militants in the wake of the group's October 7th attacks.
As Canada and other countries express support for helping Ukraine rebuild from Russia's ongoing invasion, UN officials say those efforts are crucial during the war.
At the same time, we have to continue helping Ukraine's immediate recovery so that people can actually, who want to stay in Ukraine can actually do that. And when people are ready to return from abroad or from internal displacement, that the conditions are ready then, that they have a home to move back into.
This comes as Russia continues a series of nightly bombardments of Ukrainian cities, as its forces claim to have seized another village in the eastern Donetsk region.
The U.S. president has left Washington to visit the central Texas disaster zone today, a week after fast-moving floodwaters killed at least 120 people.
It's a horrible thing, a horrible thing. Nobody can even believe it, such a thing. That much water that fast. Without a dam break, you'd think a dam would have to break to have it. So it's a terrible thing, but we're going to be there with some of the great families and others, the governor, everybody.
Donald Trump and the First Lady will tour affected areas by air, meet first responders, and speak with the families of victims. Among the dead, dozens of children and counselors at Camp Mystic, a private Christian summer camp for girls. And the search continues for more than 170 people still missing. Lindsay.
Well, here we go again. Environment Canada issuing another heat warning for us here in the city of Toronto and some surrounding areas. Take a look. This is warning of the heat and the humidity that we are going to experience this weekend. Saturday looks to be the hottest day, but the pattern could continue right through next week. Some 50,000 people once again expected to go to the Coldplay concert tonight. Here's your evening at a glance. Weather's looking good, but again, it is warm out there. And if you're spending your weekend in cottage country, perhaps at a campground, just be aware that this part of Ontario has a slightly elevated chance of experiencing some thunderstorms. We'll show you what that looks like on the forecast radar after this break here on CTV News at noon.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
It is Friday. We are heading into another July weekend, and we have sunshine and we have some serious heat on tap.
Yeah, with that, a warning. So while it's so great to be outside enjoying yourself, you got to take all those precautions.
Yeah, you got to look after yourself, look after others. We know that certain groups of people are a little more vulnerable in hot and humid weather like this. Thinking of some younger people, some older people too, perhaps some pregnant individuals. Just take care. And if you are going to be exercising outside, take it easy. Maybe find a cool indoor place to be, especially tomorrow, because at the height of the day, it is going to feel like 41 here in the city of Toronto, and we're really not looking at much relief from this until about the middle part of next week. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. This morning, we had fog in some parts of southern Ontario. We had a bit of haze in the GTA. Yeah, if you look closely, you can see the CN Tower somewhere in there. Of course, the sun also did rise, and we've had a mix of sun and cloud through the day today. It's been a little bit variable. The clouds have been rolling in and out. Oh, look at that. Nice shot. Nice way to start the day this morning down by the water. Hey, I want to mention, yesterday I was talking about the fact that we had not had very much rain so far in the month of July. In fact, before yesterday, we had had less than 2 millimeters of rain. Yesterday, we got more than 12 millimeters of rain thanks to that downpour. So this is at Pearson Airport. So for those keeping track, we're now at about 14.4 millimeters of rain. On average in July, we pick up roughly 75 millimeters. We could get a little more rain as we make our way through this weekend. It's not a guarantee here in the GTA, but once again, we find ourselves with that chance of showers and risk of thunderstorms, especially though Saturday and into Sunday. So let's talk about that. Today, potential for some unsettled weather, mainly in extreme southwest Ontario. I'll set the forecast radar in motion. There's about 4 p.m. around London, and then overnight Windsor to London corridor, once again, active weather. We should remain dry here in the GTA, but again, that chance is going to be there. Lots of sun for your Saturday, chance of showers in the morning, and then we're going to watch later in the evening hours Saturday and then overnight for some thunderstorm activity, especially in parts of cottage country, but including the GTA. Sunday itself looks to bring a little more in the way of cloud cover and perhaps a few showers as well. Right now it is 27 degrees in Toronto. It feels like 35. Our forecast high for today is 30 degrees, feeling like 37. So no surprise that once again, Environment Canada issuing a heat warning. UV index for today is a 9. So make sure you're protecting yourself from that sun if you are out and about. And we're not cooling down all that much tonight. 21 for the low is quite uncomfortable for sleeping. And then as mentioned, tomorrow is expected to be the hottest day, at least as far as humidity is concerned. So our forecast in Toronto is about 32 degrees, feeling like 41. And notice how this temperature trend is set to continue. 7-day forecast looks like this. A whole lot of 30-degree highs over the next 7 days. Looks like we're going to get some relief by about the middle part of next week. That's the weather for now. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. A meaningful and challenging journey has been conquered by the younger brother of Darryl Fox. He followed in the famous footsteps of his sibling, but on 2 wheels. Here's CTV's Garrett Berry on his triumphant feat.
A roar from the crowd as the 7,500-kilometer journey reaches its end. For 1 month and 1 day, Darryl Fox and a team of 7 other riders crossed the country, pushing through hills and heat to make it back here. Mile Zero in St. John's, where his older brother Terry began his marathon of hope 45 years ago.
To be on the other side really proved to me that what Terry did was incredible. I don't have words to describe it, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to articulate what Terry accomplished in 1980.
Along the way, endless stories of what cancer has taken from those who lined the streets.
This bracelet belongs to Sam Tebow. I met a family friend of his in Moncton, and she wanted me to give me this bracelet. I said I would bring this bracelet to St. John's and place it on Terry's wrist.
And from those who rode to remember.
Jeremy Henderson was his name, and I actually put his initials on my bike so that every time I felt like I couldn't get up that hill or I couldn't keep going, I looked down and I see his initials.
Even 45 years later, Terry Fox still stands tall, and this ride is just more evidence of a young man's lasting impact.
Many today came to remember seeing Terry leave from St. John's on that incredible journey in 1980.
And you looked at him and thought, this very young man with this bad leg, he was incredible.
Along with the tears and the triumph, $1 million raised for the Terry Fox Foundation. The fight against cancer far from over, but tonight, a sense of accomplishment for Darryl and so many others. Garrett Berry, CTV News, St. John's.
It is early bird day for the Princess Margaret Cottage Lottery. Here's your chance to win the early bird prize, which is $1 million cash, and that ticket is also good for so many other incredible prizes, including this $2.7 million grand prize, a lakefront cottage in Kawarthas, plus $50,000 cash. All in one. Kim Gardner now joins me from the Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation.
Hi, G.
The cottage lottery is always so popular.
So popular. And last summer's cottage lottery sold out.
Yeah.
So super popular. For those that haven't bought a ticket yet, you better get in to do it.
I love this lakefront cottage here on Shadow Lake in Kawarthas. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. So 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, over 2,200 square feet. What's not to like? And behind us is Shadow Lake, which is absolutely stunning. You were out on the water today. How was the water?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful cottage country. I love it here.
For sure.
Yeah. And then, of course, don't forget to add on the 50-50 ticket because the jackpot is growing.
That's right. And so I actually have some breaking news for everyone. We are now at $3.2 million, which means that the lucky winner could win $1.6 million. And this jackpot just keeps on growing.
Yeah, so that number will keep growing. Add on that 50-50. And let's remember, all of this is going to a wonderful cause.
That's right. So the funds from the lottery go towards life-saving cancer research at the Princess Margaret, which is one of the top cancer research centers in the world. And this is really about giving hope to people that are being treated at the Cancer Center. And for all people who have cancer, really, 2 in 5 Canadians will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime, sadly. But at the Princess Margaret, it's all about hope. We really want to give people hope for brighter tomorrows, for a world that's free from the fear of cancer. And that's really what this research is helping to fund.
Yeah, we're literally saving lives, one ticket at a time, but you have to get your ticket before midnight tonight for your chance to win the early bird prize. Who doesn't love cash?
Very
your chance
exciting.
to win, and that ticket is good for so many other incredible prizes, and add on that 50-50.
That's right, princessmargaretlottery.com. If you haven't gotten your tickets, do it today.
There is new hope for hundreds in this country living with a rare, dangerous, and painful disease. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth on the Canadian research showing positive results.
It's vacation getaway day for Ryan DeVoe and his family. DeVoe may appear healthy, but he lives with Fabry disease, which leaves the body unable to break down fatty materials, which can cause organ damage and a shortened lifespan.
There's a buildup around certain organs like my heart, my kidneys, potentially in my brain, of this stuff that my body can't break down.
For nearly 2 decades, DeVoe relied on enzyme replacement therapy, which required routine trips to a specialist. Enter Dalhousie University's Dr. Michael West, the co-author of groundbreaking research on gene therapy.
We designed a study to look at the feasibility
gene therapy and Fabry disease, and also the safety of this procedure. And so we were the first gene therapy trial in Fabry disease.
The trial started in 2016 and involved 5 patients, including DeVoe. To put it in simple terms, researchers didn't treat the gene linked to Fabry disease. They instead used stem cells from bone marrow to produce a copy of a normal gene.
And after 6 years, we still have evidence that the new gene is still in these patients and still working.
Ryan DeVoe says participating in this research trial has already simplified the process of his medical treatment and has improved the overall quality of his life.
Over the course of a couple of months, you put in a lot of work with it as a patient, and then it's done.
3 of the 5 patients in the trial stopped enzyme therapy, which is also cost-effective.
And that saved us about $3.7 million.
Gene therapy research needs more testing before it becomes conventional medical treatment. There is no cure for Fabry disease, but DeVoe says this latest trial has improved his health. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
It may be too soon to notice, but we're getting a little less sunlight now that we're past the summer solstice.
But yesterday, the actual amount of time in the day was, in fact, less. CTV's Pauline Chan explains.
It's nothing a human being could detect, but July 9th was the shortest day since modern records began.
The day was shortened by 1.3 milliseconds because the Earth was spinning on its axis just ever so slightly faster than usual.
Neuroscientist Sam Yamin explains.
There are a lot of different things that change the speed that the Earth rotates. One of them is the gravitational relationship between the Earth and the Moon.
The Moon affects the Earth's tidal forces, and she likens it to a figure skater spinning.
Pulling their arms inwards towards their axis, that makes them speed up the spin, and that's what happens to the Earth.
The development of super-sensitive technology is what allows us to detect these minute changes, in particular the atomic clock. But shorter days have been going on for, well, ages.
In the Triassic era, 200 million years ago, the length of a day was 23 hours. And in another 200 million years in the future, it could go up to 25 hours long.
And losing a millisecond or more will happen again this summer.
On July 22nd, the Earth will lose 1.38 milliseconds of the day because it'll be spinning faster. And a similar thing on August 5th. The day will be shortened by 1.51 milliseconds.
Yamin says Earth-based measurements like sea levels, tidal forces, and satellite data help scientists predict these minuscule changes. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Justin Bieber surprised fans today with his first new album in more than 4 years. The Canadian pop star dropped his much-anticipated but surprise 7th album, Swag, at midnight. Bieber says it's his most personal record yet and delves into his life after welcoming the birth of his son. Song titles include Dad's Love, Therapy Session, and Walking Away. Swag is a follow-up to his last album, Justice, released back in 2021. And crowds will once again make their way to and from Rogers Stadium tonight for night 3 of Coldplay's concert run. Coldplay themselves have poked fun at the issues concert goers reported about their experiences at the new venue, including transit challenges. The TTC and Go Transit are offering free transit to concert goers heading home from Rogers Stadium. Metrolink says it's organized additional southbound trains on the Barrie line from Downs View Park to Union Station. Now, with the last one at 11:55 p.m., the last northbound train departs at 11:13 p.m.
Still to come on CTV News at noon, the Canadian government is reimbursing car dealers for electric vehicle rebates paid prior to the program being shut down and signaling a renewed rebate program. We'll have the update just ahead. If your favorite artist is coming to town, you might want to be first in line to buy tickets to make sure you get a great seat at the concert.
But some music fans are finding out if they buy tickets early and the prices drop, they could have purchased better seats for a lot less. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert.
never go to cell block 1.
Kendrick Lamar brought his concert tour to Toronto last month, and fans were excited to see the Los Angeles rapper perform.
They put on a great show, so I was very happy that I went.
Brenda P. of Toronto is a big fan and wanted to be sure to see the concert, so the day the tickets went on sale, she bought 3 for just over $1,700. But as concert day approached, she noticed prices falling fast.
I noticed that the tickets I bought, like the seats around, were significantly cheaper than what I purchased them for. So even better seats were going for much, much less.
Leading up to the show, she noticed similar seats selling for almost $1,000 less.
What exactly did I pay for with my money if you're going to price them much cheaper later on?
She's like one of my all-time favorite artists.
Kyle Dawson of Toronto is looking forward to seeing Kesha play later this month. He wanted to be sure to get tickets, so on the first day of sales, he bought 1 ticket for almost $600. But he says not long after, prices started falling.
Shortly after I bought the ticket sales just like plummeted in price.
Leading up to the concert, Dawson says he could now get a similar seat for just $113.
As a hardcore fan, like I'm overpaying for what I could pay for now. Like I could pay for the same seat for a quarter of the price.
We're starting to see a lot of artists going on the road with these ambitious tours, unable to fill all the seats.
Music expert Alan Cross says it's a classic case of supply and demand. He says while some fans may want to blame Ticketmaster, he says the pricing structure is set by the artist, their manager, and the promoter. While it's impossible to know when the best time to buy tickets is, it also depends how badly you want to go.
If it's a big show and you know it's going to be a sellout, well, then you have to participate in the original on sale. If you're on the fence or you're having cash flow problems early on, you might want to wait.
Dawson says now he won't be so quick to buy concert tickets in the future.
I've held back buying tickets just because I don't want the same situation to happen again.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
Ottawa is stepping in to help car dealerships forced to pay EV rebates out of their own pockets.
CTV News has learned help is on the way after the program was stopped in January. And that's when it was apparently overwhelmed by Tesla claims. CTV's Adrian Gobriel explains.
A controversy that began following an electric sales weekend.
This has been a 6-month hardship for small independent dealerships across the country that have been owed $11 million by Transport Canada.
On Friday, January 10th, car dealerships across the country received this email from Transport Canada saying in part, due to the high uptake, the EV rebate program will be paused in a few weeks. That weekend, a handful of Tesla locations across Canada reported the sale of 8,600 vehicles, amounting to $43 million in taxpayer-funded rebates. By that Monday, the federal program was closed.
Dealers paid out money to customers with the commitment to the Government of Canada that the dealers would then be reimbursed.
CTV News has spoken with some of the 200 independent dealers across the country who are out of pocket a combined $11 million, some asking that we hide their identity to protect their business.
In my case, we're talking over $400,000 loss. Huge impact.
Following a months-long investigation...
Can't say anything.
You can't say anything at all? CTV News has now learned that Transport Canada will allow all car dealers, including Tesla, to submit any historical rebates that were paid out to customers before the program was abruptly closed in January, sending out this email informing dealerships of a webinar this coming Friday and Tuesday outlining an important update. Transport Canada has also told CTV News they're looking at starting a new program, saying in an email that they're looking at ways to reintroduce a purchase incentive worth up to $5,000 that supports Canadian workers, strengthens our domestic supply chains, and reflects the times we're in.
I think we're going to see a renewed rebate program, and it's going to have some filters there that say the qualifying vehicles either are made in Canada or have substantial content from Canada. There isn't one Tesla production plant in Canada.
Canada's Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association is also calling on Ottawa to scrap the GST on all made-in-Canada vehicles, not just offer incentives for EVs. That's something the Conservatives campaigned on during the last federal election. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Toronto.
Well, the Blue Jays are looking to start a new streak tonight in California.
1-2. Line to center field. Robert Jr. is there, and that's ball game.
Toronto's 10-game run came to an end Wednesday with that 2-1 loss to the White Sox. The Jays are still hanging on to the top spot in the AL East, 2 games ahead of the Yankees. Tonight they are in Sacramento to take on the Athletics. Max Scherzer gets the start, and the first pitch is set for 10:05 p.m.
What do you think? Another 10-game win streak? That'd be nice.
Fingers crossed.
Or are we getting too greedy?
No, let's be greedy. Come on.
Why not?
Yeah, baseball weather too. I mean, it's hot.
Oh yeah, and anybody who's maybe heading to the baseball diamond with their kids this evening, just be aware that there's once again a chance of a passing shower as we make our way through today. One more look at the satellite and radar. This wet weather that we see making its way toward Windsor, it is expected to break up and not have a big impact on us. However, a heat warning is in place not just for tonight, but for tomorrow. First, though, tonight, not getting much relief from the heat. 21 degrees, going to feel like 29 overnight. And then look at tomorrow. At the height of the day, it will feel like 41. And there isn't a whole lot of relief in your 7-day forecast until about Thursday of next week, with the temperature slightly cooler, out of the 30s anyway. Nathan and Michelle.
Thanks, Lindsay. And that's CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great day.